Welcome everybody to an episode of Sink or Swim. I'm Felix Levine, and we got the star, of course, John Alite. But today is, I think it's the first time that you're back on camera in a little while. Obviously, people out there are probably familiar with the tragedy that happened in your life. And I think today is going to be a great opportunity for you to, it's been an emotional couple months, but for you to, in a lot of ways, I think, help a lot of families and a lot of people. And then also, I think, for your fans, for them to kind of understand what's been going on, for you to open up about it. So I guess maybe I'll let you initially, take it away with more where you're at right now emotionally and mentally, so that your fans can hear from you directly.
Well, I've been doing shows with fentanyl. I talk about fentanyl in the past and the lives it's taken in this country. And it's about 300 people a day passing away, dying from fentanyl. I don't believe that's an addiction problem. I believe it's people being murdered. It's not a drug. It's not a recreational drug that people are seeking out, like cocaine or marijuana or something where, over the years, people get high and they don't die from it. Now it's a war on this country, and my stance on it, especially now that I lost my daughter, for the people that don't know Chelsea, is to really go after Congress, legislative laws to change, to charge some of these people with that are bringing it across with terrorist organization. China, I want stricter laws on China because it's coming from China. And our government officials on all sides of the aisle aren't doing enough about it. We're sending billions. I believe last week we sent $12 billion again to Ukraine, and I feel bad for the Ukrainian people. But they're not losing 300 people a day in a war. We are here. And there's not enough being done financially to fight it. And if some of these laws change, it can be an aggressive move for other organizations in our government to go after these drug organizations and also after the Chinese government.
So because I don't know enough about this, and I'm sure that over the past couple months you've learned a lot more than, unfortunately, you ever thought you would. What is, I guess, from what you've learned, like the biggest driver? Like, how does fentanyl even get into the country, and how is it, I guess maybe unfortunately in Chelsea's situation, but like, how do people get to it, for people that aren't familiar with how that really works?
Well, fentanyl is a drug that's chemically made in China. It was used here when you're getting operated on. The anesthesiologists use it but it's not synthetic. It's being made in the synthetic form in China, and it's sold to the cartels in Mexico, knowingly that it's that they're going to kill mostly our younger kids in this country, obviously adults too, but it's in the hands of kids. And just most recently, we used to have candies that we used to call razzles. They look like different colors, and they developed this fentanyl into these colors because they're trying to sell it to the younger kids now, knowing you're going to kill these kids. It's not a business like some other businesses like marijuana, where you're selling it if a kid's 12 years old and he's smoking it, he's not dying. Now they're spraying even marijuana with fentanyl, and kids are ODing from it.
But in a lot of ways, if the end goal is to make money, why are they trying to, or why are they putting something that's killing people instead of trying to get them hooked on something new, kind of like crack cocaine, right? Where it becomes extremely profitable, because unfortunately people are passing away. Then, in a weird way, it's like there's no more clientele, or you're losing clientele.
Well, the cartel, I believe, is doing it for financial gain. I think that they want to put out the strongest drugs out there, so people come back and they get that super high. But I think the Chinese government, that is intentionally and not doing enough, if they say they're not doing it intentionally, I think it's an attack on our country, on our kids, and they're not doing enough on their end of trying to stop this fentanyl from coming in. So I think it's something, again, it's in question, just like everybody questioned the origins of COVID. But the difference is with fentanyl is factually coming from China. And the United States, on our end, our government pays about $1 billion a year to Mexico, to their government to protect our borders. So if they're not doing their job on the Mexican side, why don't we take that billion, put it into private contractors and put them on the border? And I guarantee you they do a much better job when you get it away from government officials and you let private enterprises handle what's going on.
But so then, like within the United States, once it's here, or like, are there people that are manufacturing it here and lacing it into drugs here? Do you know?
They're lacing it into drugs here, but they're not manufacturing here.
Okay.
The manufacturing is happening in China to Mexico, Mexico cartels to here. And these organizations from Mexico should be charged as terrorist organizations. And the Mexican government, along with our open border policy. So I don't want to get too far off in the open border policy. So for people on all sides of the aisle, it is not humane for people that don't understand, you understand my past. I was involved with drugs. I was involved with cartels. I was involved with crime. I understand that the border, allowing all these countries to unload their criminals from every country, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Honduras, whether it's El Salvador, they're emptying their jails and they're coming across our border. And I understand they're all carrying drugs. Also, for the people that think it's humane to let these immigrants come into this country, they can't get a work visa for 3, 4, 5 years now because of the backlog. They're sleeping all over the streets. The families in their countries are in debt to the cartels. So if they send them over to the United States and they don't follow what they're supposed to be doing to pay their debt, they're prostituting their kids, their mothers over in their countries. So they're not only getting abused there, they're coming here, they're living in the streets with no means of making money. Even the good people that are looking for a future in this country, like most immigrants do, they don't have the ability to go to work because you can't get a work visa. So it's not humane to watch these people dying on the way over, taking chances, being murdered on the way over, being prostituted, using the kids as child pornography. These are all the things that are going on that Democrats, Republicans, Independents should all understand. This isn't about politics. This is about lives on both sides of the border. It's not fair.
And then I think, also what I'm curious about, and it's more on a personal level, is like, I think it's important for people to see, because you have a lot of people that support you, that watch you, that listen to you, like the firsthand detriment that this can have on a family and a person. And I think that for the past couple months, I mean, you and I have spoken obviously a lot, but, there's phases and there's a lot that you've been through.
One of the sponsors that have sponsored my show over the years, and is BetterHelp. And I talk about BetterHelp a lot because it is for the ability to get through some tough times. And I've used them. I definitely respect their company. I respect what they do trying to save lives. And I think when I talk about things like BetterHelp that are helping people, and now myself going through my daughter passing away from taking one pill at 9:30 in the morning before she caught a flight to come back home with me, my grandson. One pill, not 10, not 5, not 6. It was one. And that's all it takes to end somebody's life. So it's a murder. It's not a drug overdose. I don't like when I hear that. I got involved on Facebook with groups of families that lost their children or lost loved ones, not just children. I got involved through a woman, Dawn, and I want to thank her. She put me in touch with a woman, Dee, that runs an organization called the Black Poster Project. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp has helped me through some of the situation in my life. As long as therapy, for the last 30 years, I've been in therapy because of all the things I've seen through my life, all the problems I've had, the anxieties, the stress. Therapy's helped motivate me to get up in the morning to continue on and go out and overcome some of the problems I had in my life. I believe in therapy, and I really believe in better help. With these kind of situations, it's easy to move forward in your daily routine. BetterHelp is, to me, is a lot better than going into an office for therapy. You have video chat, you have phone, you have online. It's very accessible. You can get an appointment within 48 hours. And you can feel free. If you don't match up with one therapist, you can try another. It's very convenient. It's in your house. Anytime you feel stressed, you pick up the phone and you can have a conversation and get through your daily problems and your daily life and your routine. To me, BetterHelp is the convenience of the modern day therapy that you need. Our listeners can get 10% off. You go to betterhelp.com/alite and you get 10% off. That's BetterHelp, HELP, for 10% off. Thank you, everybody. Have a healthy, happy day. And I went to a church event that she said, and she sets up in pews about 500 posters of real people that really, families that have been affected by losing, some of them multiple kids in their family, some of them parents and sons and daughters, all passed away from being murdered by this fentanyl. And it's a real thing of suffering. I have a grandson, my daughter's son, 5 years old, that I'm involved with trying to help him so he doesn't mentally have the effect of losing his mom. And I'm just one that, I've been out trying to help people and talk about staying off the street, live a good life. And it hit me harder than most, I guess. I lost a daughter and I have a son in prison. So when I'm out here advocating in the past, now I'm really advocating because now I really know more so than I thought I knew about pain.
What are some of the conversations that you've had at I think it was when you go to it was a church thing, with some of these families? Is it kind of like, is there even conversation, or is it more of this mutual understanding that you guys, or a feeling that you guys can both feel that nobody else can really understand? When we were on these shows and we're talking about helping people and we're trying to help them, I had no idea until this happened. I thought I had an idea, and I think they have a mutual, unfortunate grief that we're all going to live for the rest of our lives. And people have been through it. Somebody just wrote me today that lost a son 25 years ago. And he said that, you're always going to have that hole. That pain's never going to go away. You're just going to learn to deal with it each day. So instead of just sitting here, I'm not that guy. I'm a fighter. Everybody understands that. Sitting here and doing nothing, I got to do something to help. I got to be like the woman did for the Black Poster Project. I believe her child is 7 years now, and her husband lost their child 7 years ago. And some of these other organizations I'm on and involved with group chats on Facebook. There's people that lost several kids. There's people that lost a child recently or have lost them 15 years ago, and they all say the same thing. This is never going to go away. This is not something. So I want to be proactive like I've always been. It's hard to get up here because of the emotions. You're always crying and stuff. Is to make sure that another parent, or try to help another parent so they don't go through this. And the drug world in the street is a difficult, very difficult, especially for kids that are playing around, whether they're addicted or whether recreationally playing. But now, either way, every time they step out the house, it's like somebody putting a gun to their head and saying, is that pill going to kill you? Mm-hmm. So it's not like when we were younger, we did some coke, or we did a couple of lines, and you get high, and it's not good for you, obviously.
but they're not dropping like flies like now. Now it's just Russian roulette. And I think our country, and people know I'm very verbal about, I just think it's off track completely about the family values and about what's going on the border and other countries. Like I said, I feel bad for Russian people. I feel bad for Ukrainian people. They're human beings. I feel bad for every country that wants to come over here and immigrate into this country, but not this way. This way, the people that are coming over, they think they're going to come get the American dream, and they're losing their family members on the way over. They're being forced to bring fentanyl over. They're prostituting their family. They're living in the streets. They're living in tents. They're defecating in the street. This isn't humane for them either. And for the people that are trying to immigrate here legally, they can't get over because of what's going on with where our country can't accept us. And this isn't about, to me, it's not about a political party. It's about being rich or being poor. And if all these immigrants and all these drugs were going into the Hamptons, they were going into Beverly Hills, they were going into private, very wealthy communities, I think that then people would start waking up and saying, what's going on here? Because their children are going to start dying from these drugs that are being brought in by these open borders.
And I think more also to see kind of the effect on the family so that people can understand. I think as I'm sure a lot of people that support you are kind of, interested in hearing about your own process of kind of healing or even like bearing life, over the past month and a half. Because even I remember talking to you, I think it was a couple weeks after, on the phone for the first time, and I could hear it in your voice. But I wonder, like what has the change been like, and what are the small things that you do? Like if a family's out there listening right now that's lost a loved one, like what are the small things that you're able to do every day now that give you reason to live and to move forward as well?
Well, my grandson, for one, my son that's in prison, I got to help.
2 other sons as well.
And I have 2 other children that, they're not children, they're always going to be children to me, but to make sure they stay on a good path, which they're on. And to get out of bed. I mean, you don't want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. And anybody that you talk to, you're just sad. And the only way you can continue is to do something and fight back. And if I'm just one more parent that's not saying anything, and we're losing our children, and we're sitting in the house and we're crying and we're suffering and we're going to church and we're praying. And obviously I'm in church on a regular basis, more so than I used to be. And I'm trying to do something proactive where I feel that my daughter would want me to do this. And I think most of the parents have the same feeling, that their kids would say, Mom, Dad, don't be sad, but go out and help the next family. So, hopefully that by me taking my anger and sad and depression and whatever word you want to use and go out and advocate for those kids that are suffering, to go try to get help, look in the mirror and say their lives worth something, call places like BetterHelp, and that will help you and help the parents, and go after some of these organizations and try to get involved with people that are in our local communities, Congress, and political people, and push them to stop this war, because it's a war. You're losing 100,000 people a year. That's a war.
Yeah. Do you feel like the issue is, it sounds to me like it's also like a twofold issue. There's a lot of drugs in this country, and then there's also a lot of fentanyl, and then both go hand in hand, right? Like people who are more likely to have a laced drug are probably people who are more likely to be fed drugs or hooked on drugs. Like, how do we, it's a hard issue, right? But like, for someone listening out there that might be doing drugs, and people do, and whatever, everybody's kind of experimented at some point probably. Like, how do we make sure, like, how do we, stripping out the political side and what the government can do, like, what do you say to people that are out there that are listening to this that might be kind of faced with both of those issues of drugs and also worried about also fentanyl?
we have to, and this isn't political, this is for people like Joy Behar that are speaking, or Joy Reid, or any of these people that come from very wealthy backgrounds, that their children don't face the same thing as our kids do in the inner cities, where fentanyl is in all our neighborhoods rampant. So whether they like it or not, it's not a political position to secure those borders. We can't continue with the border like this. There's too much drugs coming over, there's too many weapons coming over, and there's too many of our kids that are losing their lives. Unfortunately, a lot of kids live tough lives and they don't have the strength mentally. You're a unique guy, and that's why we started doing these shows. And people always ask, why do we do shows together? Because I looked at you as an example to tell kids in your generation, hey, you know, we can help each other and we can go out and you can be in my position. And, you know, you could get help from people like yourself that understand you more because you're my kids' ages or some of my son's ages. And, you know, they'll listen to you and you're somebody that they're going to look up to. Me, I'm an older guy that's been in trouble, lived the street life, understand it more than anybody that could possibly go in and commentate on TV. They can commentate all day they want. There was a movie years ago about Michael Douglas, and his daughter was on drugs, and he was a government official, and he didn't understand it. His job was to fight crime until he found his daughter in crack dens and this and I forget the name of the movie, but it was very realistic because he understood that he didn't understand it until it hit him. I understand it since I'm a kid. Unfortunately, I was on the wrong side for a long time. I'm on the right side. I know the things that need to be done by this government, by people's actions, and not just by talk and rhetoric and nonsense, but what we have to do. And we have to change and uncuff some of our government officials' hands so they can go after these groups as terroristic groups, so you can hit them and have access to more access to fight it criminally. And we have to put more pressure on China. That's the main thing is China. There's nowhere near enough pressure to put on a Chinese government for what they're allowing and not fighting and combating enough. And the same thing with Mexico. They're allowing these things to happen and pull the money back from the Mexican government and hire private security on our borders is the first step. And the second step is to stop making these people that are immigrating to this country suffer because they're suffering. And even the good people, so people understand this, that come over with good intentions and they're laying the street and they're trying to survive with their families and they're intense, you're going to make them criminals. You're going to make them go to those organizations because they need money. And they'll do whatever they have to do to feed their families. And those are people that are not criminals, are just desperate to survive. So when you go into places like Martha's Vineyard and they throw them out, they don't want them there. This is back to politics. And if they can understand that when these groups are going there and they're bringing drugs with them, some of them are good people, some of them are not. Well, you cannot have a system like this where they're not vetted because they're coming in from other areas that are cartel guys or they're coming from prisons and they survive by selling drugs. No different than what I did as a kid. The difference is now they're killing them with fentanyl. And this makes it a completely different level of security now coming into this country.
I'm curious, are there, have you had any conversations with, or maybe what was like the most notable conversation of either, you know, someone that suffered a similar tragedy, or also I'm wondering too, like, is there anybody from your past life, maybe it was an old mob rival or, or somebody that, from your past that reached out during this time?
I have, so for the people that know, I have friends of mine that are away from the life. They were Mexican cartel bosses. I have friends of mine that were from El Salvador and Honduras. They were MS-13 bosses. So I understand the border. I brought drugs in over the years through the border. And I understand some of them also lost their kids. And then as, you know, when we're younger, we don't think the same.
Yeah.
And as you get older and you mature and you live life and you regret your things in your past, you start saying, how do I save lives? Not how do I make money off of lives? And the people that are allowing it, whether you're criminals or whether you're just complacent, whether you're a government official, they're all part of the problem that more people and more parents as they come out, and I think you're going to see more and more people coming up because there's more and more lives lost. We're sitting here today, and 300 kids are going to die today, every day. It's guaranteed, 300, maybe better. And as they keep bringing these drugs across the border, this ain't going to slow down. So I want to understand, when we're sending $100 billion over to Ukraine, why aren't we doing that for our own citizens here and for those immigrants that are coming in? If you're going to let them in, you got to pay for them. And if you're going to send $100 billion to other countries, and you're talking about giving an atomic capabilities to Iran, and those people are suffering in the street there, why isn't that money going to a regime that's torturing those people, suppressing those people from freedom? And they're asking you not to send them because they're riding on the streets now, they're protesting for their freedom. Why isn't this money going to save our kids and our people's lives here and the lives of these immigrants that are suffering, coming in and living on the streets?
But some of those old like MS-13 members or cartel members, I don't know if you're still in contact with them, but I'm curious, like, from after this tragedy in your life, I don't know if there's a memorable conversation that you had with, whether it was a family member or somebody from your past life that reached out that it meant a lot, or that you can think of.
So when you have, and one of my friends, and I don't want to say his name on here, was one of the bosses, very close, and you know who he is, and he spoke to me, and I've been talking to him about collaborating with some of the things that we're doing. And he was involved strongly, his family, from El Salvador. I had another member from MS-13 on a show a couple of years back with me, a very good friend of mine. We're still in touch. And they have kids now. And some of them lost family members also. So when their lives change in a different direction, and he gave me a phone call. He was one of the first guys to call me when he found out. And when they're crying on the phone with you for your loss, then it hits home. Yeah. Because now he's opening up about his own family, and he's opening up to me because I'm very emotional. And we talk about how we can stop it. And if government officials aren't listening to us, like they know more than us, because they don't know more than us, because this is what we did. We lived on those streets. We lived in prisons. So I understand when I go to the Black Poster Project, and I cry to a woman that I don't know, along with other families. And, and I told you earlier, there was one family, there was 12 people in the family, they lost 5 people in their family.
That's crazy, man.
That's a war.
Yeah.
That wasn't overdosing. Overdosing, for the people that don't know, is somebody that's shooting heroin and speedballing cocaine and then drinking and they blow up their heart, and that's overdosing. What's going on is when someone's taking a Percocet, like my daughter did, it's a Percocet, you take it for a toothache when the dentist gives it to you, and it's laced with fentanyl, that's murder. So when people understand, and the people that don't understand the drug business, when somebody is smoking a joint, and for the people that don't know this, they're dropping in jails also, because the drugs that are being smuggled in are being sprayed with fentanyl, the marijuana. And people are ODing there also. It's just not, you don't hear about it in the news because they're inmates and people don't care. But that's how rampant this is. So unless somebody brings this out, I mean, it's out, but not the way it should be. And until they combat it properly, and we put $100 billion into saving our kids' lives here and building this country to be safe again, then this is going to continue, and we'll be at war a long time.
Well, I think also, what's interesting in general is when people think about your life, right? You've kind of seen it all, and you've been through it all, literally. And, I think, and you've been through a lot of hard things, but I'm sure that this can't even, 20 years in jail is light work compared to this.
Yeah, I mean, suffering is a different type of suffering. You go to sleep at night, you're thinking about your daughter. You're dreaming about her. You're waking up, you're thinking about her. This is never going to go away. You're eating something where couple of minutes ago, we're joking, and you feel guilty because you're joking.
Right.
And again, our kids, my daughter, or any of the family's kids, they don't want to see us suffer either. Right. They would want us to get on with your life. It's just very difficult to get on with your life after this. It's, I don't know how people, and we feed off each other some strength. I guess that's why you have these organizations and groups, and you have therapists like BetterHelp that will, and besides me saying I use them, and over the years I believed in therapy, and everybody knows I talk about my old therapist, and I just believe that the more you let it out and talk and discuss it, it'll help some.
Are there some things other than like the group meetings and things that you can do with other people, like that you've noticed smaller activities are helpful for you? Just, because some people out there right now are probably, going through grief, and, sometimes they don't want to be around people and they want to just kind of do their own thing. Like, I don't know, it could be as simple as like going on a walk, like eating good food, like, and I know you've been around, because I was with them, your family as well, and a lovely family. So I think all of that stuff has to help as much as it could.
I got to joke a little because I always joke even now. You're saying we have a lovely family, but you beat everybody in ping pong and a couple sports.
Hey, I destroyed.
So we're after him. He's a tennis player. He goes, he's a tennis player. You didn't tell everybody. He's basically a professional tennis player.
I was sweating too, because the whole family wanted to play.
Yeah. Like, everybody's practicing now. We bought 3 teams, and we just flew in 3 Chinese pros for lessons. So I think
no, that was a beautiful day, because I was, for people, it was after the service, and obviously a very difficult time. But I think that for me was one of the first moments, I think, in my life too, where I had, you go from an event that's so sad, and then just being around, and that was the first time I'd met a lot of the members of your family, your sisters, their kids, and they're really lovely people. And then I think all of us being together and doing lighthearted things like playing ping pong or joking or sitting around the table and eating good food and eating pie and whatever, that felt like as much as possible, like healing, or like, and seeing you, obviously, like I could tell when there's moments of ups and downs, but at least I think it was, it's people that love you, and no matter what issues you've had in the past, there's people that, like, they were there and they were crying alongside you.
Well, even during this, I have petty people that take shots, at me, and they want to see the suffering, and I, I'm so heartbroken that I don't even react to that, because I'm saying people are that low to even, and I'm not asking anybody to feel bad. For me personally, it's my daughter. So for me, you wish me bad luck, that's fine. You can wish it. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. I don't care who wishes. Those are just negative, crappy people that would even bring that up during times like this. So that tells you about those people. For the good people, like, some of them that you met, the Jones and Stephen and his wife Nancy, and the different people that stood by, and there's a ton. I can't name them all. My friend Frank, that's always with me when I'm down in Florida. These guys are all great, good people, and those are the people you try to surround yourself. But when everyday life goes on and you're alone, you got to do this alone. So those are the hard times. Like, people, and I want to thank everybody that sent me birthday wishes, and when they said, I hope, and it puts them in a bad position, because yesterday obviously was my birthday, and my staff put it out and said, it was my birthday for whatever reason, and I appreciate my staff and people that are working with us, but there is no happy birthdays. You're going to get through them, to be honest with you. You appreciate the well wishes, but after this, and any parent that's going through this knows this, we're going to go through our emotions in our life and be there for our other kids and our grandson, but life's never going to be the same. Right. So how do you get through each day? For me now, I woke up this week and I told you, let's do something on this. And now I'm going to, this will be my life mission now, to go after anybody and everybody that is selling fentanyl. Mm-hmm. I can accept, and I've done it, and I don't justify what other people do, but this is a murder weapon. This is an atomic bomb. And if anybody says it's different, it's not recreational. It's not when they said war on drugs, when Oliver North said that we had war on drugs with Ronald Reagan years ago, and they were talking about the cocaine that was coming to this country. I don't know how many people died from cocaine, but not many from just doing a couple lines recreational that's been going on. But this is like arsenal. It's an arsenic. It's an atomic bomb. It's a completely different level. Kids don't go out seek to go die. When you go do coke recreationally, whether you're a movie star or a ball player or whatever, it's recreational and you didn't die from it, for the most part. I'm not saying nobody that. This, everybody and anybody can die. It's a little grain of sand. If you take it, you die.
I think most importantly, though, and I think what you just said is there was a lot of like, it's very powerful too, because when you think about your life, right, and somebody will look, and knock on wood, many more years of healthy life, but like when somebody will look at the arc of your life, right, it'll be, you know, baseball, mob, and then jail, and then really tried to, the rest of your life was spent trying to help others, and originally it was not living lives of crime, right? That was a big message that when we did our show was, you know, how do we keep kids out of gangs? How do we keep kids out of mob? How do we keep kids off the street? Yada, yada. And then now with this tragedy, it's not that message is still not as important, but now it's also helping, you know, the war against fentanyl and the war against, you know, everything that has to do with that. So I think it's, in a way, it's like this, for lack of a better word, like a beautiful arc of helping people for the rest of your life. And I think that's where probably for you and for people that are struggling with, you know, a tragedy of this magnitude, is like, that's where you find the comfort, is like, is helping people. And I think that's really, you know, I remember when we did shows back then, when you would be like, you know, my real purpose was to go through everything that I went through to ultimately help people. That is my only purpose now. I think that kind of holds true. And in a way, I think that's the best way to, you know, to live your life from now on.
Well, I surround myself around good people. You know, Dr. Genti, Tuskegee, people that he was also on our show. These are good, strong people with good cause that help me also with what I'm trying to do and help people, and also help me at the same time. And I try to take it, and, you know, and I've talked to priests, and I've talked to leaders of different church organizations, and I'm trying to find a purpose of why my daughter was taken. And maybe it was just another point, and this was God's will to push me further into trying to save and help lives. I don't know. I mean, I hope that's something, and my daughter's looking up, down, and smiling at us from in heaven and talking. And my grandson asked me that question the other day. Yeah. He says, can I talk to mommy? Can mommy come back now? And, you know, I wanted to die when he said that to me. And I says, no, mommy's in heaven. And he says, is she in the car now? Is she a ghost? I said, no, mommy's an angel. And he said, yeah, but, you know, like a ghost mean I can't see it, but I can talk to her. I go, yeah. So maybe this is her way, and other people like Dee, which her fight for Black Poster children that's our fight for our kids, are pushing us to try to save some lives, and say this was the purpose. Sacrificing like veterans who I highly regard. Tomorrow I'll be at an event at church at 8:30 in Rockaway, New Jersey, for veterans, and I'm going to join some of them at a church event. And they sacrifice their lives, a lot of people, for the better of other people. And maybe all these kids that are passing away, this is God's will for us as parents to go out and try to save other kids and other lives, and pass this message and go after, and maybe they'll stronger laws, stronger regulations. And again, I think it's got to start more so with countries more than the border itself. We need to put more pressure on the Mexican side of the border, take the money away from them if they're not handling their side of the border where it's just coming across, because we know it's corrupt. Go after the cartels in different ways as terrorist organizations, and go after China as a government that's not doing much which is a very strong country, can do a lot more than they're doing. They're allowing this to come into our country this way. So I think there's steps we got to take first internationally between countries. And again, our local and state political people on all sides should be, this should be something that's not political. It's about lives, American lives. They should be joined together and said, these billions we're sending to other countries, nobody's has a war that we have in this country that's going on. So this is a war that it should be a state of emergency for our country, and the money should be allocated here to stop what's going on. This is not marijuana. This is not cocaine. This is not Percocet. This is arsenic, atomic weapons that are being used to destroy and kill our communities, especially in his communities, for people that understand.
To wrap up the show, what, if you have one, I guess, message to a similar grieving family or family members that, because there are so many people in similar situations right now, what is your message to those people?
Unfortunately, I have about 15 friends that lost kids, some of them multiple. You have to get involved in groups, I think, of people that understand what you're going through. And I'm very new to what I'm going through. And there's people that are helping me that have been through it for years, unfortunately, that I talk to. And faith, I believe between faith, therapy, and people that have been through this in some of these organizations, like the Black Poster, that maybe in these groups I got involved in online, you need to get involved in all those groups to get through it. There's no way to do this alone. Otherwise, you'll sink in a hole, and that's not going to do your child any good that's passed away. And their memory is to do something positive and fight back for them. So,
well said.
The show happened to be, we named it Sink or Swim about a year ago. And the idea for my friend Charlie, and he texts me and calls me every day, and he says, John, you gave good advice to people. Now you named it your show, and unfortunately, it stands for something. So you're going to sink or you're going to swim. So I'm going to swim as hard it is, as much as it hurts, but I want everybody else to swim. So we'll keep pushing, and hopefully people that feel the same. If you want to get in touch and you don't know where to go, I'll try to point in some directions or organizations also.
Perfect. Well said.
Thank you, everybody. And see you next time. I'll be back on the air again, as usual. Maybe I'll come back with some good news about being Felix in ping pong.
Nah, that's never happening. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
See you guys.